Okay, so I just wanted to go over Ben Shapiro. Oh, wait, I got to say this every time because of all the trolls. Yeah, long hair, 64-year-old. I'd still kick your butt, right? So, going over Ben Shapiro's speech last night. There's a big furor over it. Furor. Scots can't say the word furor, apparently. So, it's like trying to say purple burglar alarms. I'm quite good at that, but most Scottish people can't say purple burglar alarms. I'm getting better. I couldn't say it when that theme came out. Go look at it on YouTube. Purple burglar alarms. Right, it's kind of funny. But we can't say that. Not that there is such a thing as purple burglar alarms. Right, moving on. So I am going to talk about Ben Shapiro's speech, which I just had the YouTube video, put it into AI and asked for 10 main points. I'm not going to watch the video. Basically him speaking. And, Ben Shapiro, if you don't know who that is, I can't help you, except that he's supposedly an American, but he's Israel first, above all else. And the other aspects of that topic will probably come up as I go along. So I'll try to keep it short, but, it's a long speech. So I've got 10 main points put into AI, or taken from AI, summarizing the video or the speech. So let's see. Ben Shapiro, in his speech, honors the late Charlie Kirk. Right. Again. Okay, maybe it was a TPU, SU thing, whatever that's called, Christian sort of organization, whatever that is. So Charlie Kirk, sad, assassinated, made me very sad. And also the fact that, he's not the sharpest tool in the shed. I'd have ran rings around him, just as I could with Ben Shapiro on all those major topics. However, he was a nice guy, and he was changing his mind on some major topics, which, had he lived, would have been really interesting. So in this speech, Ben Shapiro honors Charlie Kirk, which I never even knew who Charlie Kirk was, until he sadly was moved on to the next lifetime. Think about it. Oh yeah, next lifetime, wait a minute. Oh, Jesus said that the prophet from the Old Testament called Elias, Jesus said that John the Baptist was his reincarnation. Oh, did Jesus believe in reincarnation? Oh, wait, the early Christians believed in reincarnation because that's what he called it, and basically called John the Baptist. And also there was another instant, at least one other instant, where in the Gospels Jesus says something that is very like reincarnation. Before Abraham was, I was. Or before, something like that, right? I am, actually. Before Abraham was, I am. Yeah. The energy that is the soul is part of the energy of the universe, and it never really goes away. It doesn't go away. It's still this energy bundle that's connected to the structure of the energy system that is the whole universe. There is nothing outside of that energy system. Nothing. So, in that sense, he's correct. We all are. As he said, Jesus, I am in you as you're in me, and we are all in that energy system that is the fundamental basis from which all existence arises. That's what he said. So anyway, let's see. Praises his family. That's nice. Stresses youth upholding conservative values. Right. So what does that even mean, conservative values, especially since the people he's going to criticize in his speech are people who are conservatives. But he disagrees with them because he's Israel first. Excuse me. So let's see how that goes. But conservative values. Yeah, I agree with some of that, some conservative values. I was in India recently, in a very Indian part of India, where they were upholding conservative Indian values. Family values, I would call it. I liked it. So I like that kind of place. But I don't think freedom of speech should be crushed because of that. But they're pretty open, except they're just by nature where I was, very family-oriented, family values. None of this telling children, lying to children that they can change into the opposite sex, and lying to adults, which is a lie. It's absolute nonsense, as many people are waking up to that. So what else is saying? Contrasts lions, which you call builders, lions. Oh, you're a lion, Ben. Give me a break. So anyway, he contrasts builders with scavengers, which is rather funny because if you think about it, what's the most widely used phrase in the last 2 or 3 years since October the 7th by people who have gotten themselves educated about the Zionist cause and the Zionist state, which it calls itself the Jewish state, right? By law. Sorry, I got an itchy nose. But it calls itself the Jewish state by law. It's in the law, basically. It's called the Jewish state. And so what's the most widely used phrase since then? All over the place. Many people are using it. I don't use it. But the phrase is victimhood, or a phrase similar to that, right? So they're pointing out a trait of the cult of Judaism. And, okay, you might say, well, look what happened in World War II for the Jews. Just horrible, right? One of my earliest political memories is crying over a documentary where you're seeing these Jews being trucked off in trains, right? I have PTSD from learning about that, right? The show was called The World at War, came out in the 1970s, early 1970s, and had a massive impact on me as a 12 or 13-year-old, 14-year-old maybe. So, yeah, I went to bed that night as a young kid, teenager, praying to God. Because I'm not really religious, but I was kind of religious. I am kind of religious, I suppose, but spiritual maybe. So praying to God to stop that kind of thing in the world. And now we have it again with a massive annihilation, mass murder, and mass starvation of a people in a prison camp, complete destruction. So it's come back. My prayers didn't work. So there you go. Thanks, God. So yeah, not believing in any God now, especially now after this, what happened in Gaza the last 2 or 3 years, and how this is spread around the world, and calling everybody an anti-Semite because you criticise mass murder and mass starvation, and now disease and even hypothermia, people dying, babies dying, because there's been massive floods there, or massive rainstorms in which these camps and destroyed buildings cannot protect some people who are not babies, who are not used to that, and they're dying because of the mass destruction by the Israeli state. And the Israeli state is not a democracy. So basically, it calls itself the Jewish state. In its constitution now, it appears to be, certainly that's what it's officially called by the government of Israel. And they bust in, or flew in, millions of Jews from around the world. No one else is allowed in. So they bust them in, brought them in over decades. And it amounts to something like 5 million or 7 million Jews in Israel now because of that. People from around the world. No one else is allowed to go live there. So it's just Jews, for Jews, and they build up to be the massive voting bloc that keeps parties like the Likud party, the right-wing Jewish state, in power. That's what it's for. That really helps this Jewish state. And Netanyahu, absolute scavenger. Talk about scavenger and grievance spreader, epic grievance spreader. The guy Netanyahu who lied to US Congress and just told them blatantly that Saddam Hussein had weapons of mass destruction, chemical weapons, and was going to attack Western interests in the Middle East and beyond. So that's why you should go to war against Saddam Hussein. And then you get people like Dick Cheney and George Bush shouting, he's got WMDs and he's going to use them. He didn't. The only WMDs they had were from the 1980s in which the West helped him produce, right? Helped Iraq produce. So that's that. Scavengers, yeah. So just to reiterate that Jews are not Zionists. Judaism is not Zionism. However, it is a cult where you mark the male babies with the mark of the cult and create Stockholm Syndrome. According to the Jew, Freud, that would create a type of attachment to your abuser, even as a baby, subconscious. So this is not to do with your intellect growing up and remembering things. It's on the subconscious level. It's not conscious. It's not in the conscious level of your brain. The mind, it's not in that point. It's in the subconscious. And the Jew, Freud, really showed clearly that subconscious memories can affect who or what you are or your mental state, and create and abusive subconscious memories can create an attachment to the abuser. And in this case, that means a baby, the male babies, are actually being marked or snipped to create a subconscious Stockholm Syndrome that keeps them, along with many other ceremonial aspects, which many religions have, but that initial subconscious abuse on the subconscious level that is remembered deep down in a deep subconscious, that helps to keep the males attached to the cult. Yeah? Because you don't want to lose your males back in the day, especially because that was your army or whatever, your protection for every culture. So it's a cult. It marks its babies, male babies, with the mark of the cult, and you can just get out of it, right? Okay, maybe you got marked. Okay, I'm sorry for that. A lot of people have troubles in the world. A lot of people have a lot of troubles in the world. So get over it and get out of the cult. And join all the Jews who are speaking out against Zionism, right? Who've left the cult. Some of them might still be doing the religious aspects, but they're speaking out loudly against Zionism. Jews, the strongest voices actually, because they're smart people. They're creative people. Jews are creative, smart people. This diaspora around Europe and America, around the world, it's a clever thing. It's clever. And the people are very creative within it. We think, at least from this level of consciousness, we think they're very creative and amazing contributions to the secular society. But it's still a cult. If you stay in the cult, you're in a cult. End of story. So if something started like that in this day and age, let's say a bunch of hippies, and they start doing something like that circumcision of male babies, there would be absolute uproar. They would be arrested and shut down. So yeah, you can leave the cult and start speaking out for humanity, which are, in this case, are the people of Gaza. Yeah? So if you haven't done it yet, start now. Leave the cult, join us. Because we are not partisan. We are not part of a group or a cult. We are humanists. We're part of humanity. Join humanity. Or see what's coming. I don't think it's going to be very good for Israel. I think Israel is in the curse of the 8th decade, which means they'll be finished within a few years. Done. Because of what Netanyahu's done, right? I've ranted on too much about that. What else you got? Scavengers, grievance spreaders. And now they're complaining. Ben Shapiro is complaining that people are, if they criticize Israel, they're anti-Semites. No, we're not anti-Semites. That's just your grievance spreading, right? So talk about scavengers. Well, he made it big, made millions in what I call the gravy train years, where a massive debt is put on the next generation, or the Zoomers and the Millennials, national debt, to keep this system of subsidies to massive giant corporations, massive subsidies of all sorts, military, industrial, political complex, and media complex. And that has now resulted in a $35 to $40 trillion debt. And don't talk about GDP. GDP is just turnover. It's not profit. It means nothing. So the only reason there is a half-decent GDP in America is because of massive debt, trickle-down effect from the massive debt into these companies who are given money, and the super rich get richer as the poor and middle class collapses. So yeah, Ben, because you did pretty well with all your connections in the diaspora, you did all right, because just like me, I did all right. I'm not rich, but I'm fine. And I had a good time. But a lot of that, I'd probably have gone back to Europe or something, which is just as bad. But certainly America is in this massive debt. And I'm afraid to emphasize that too much, because when people realize it, the mainstream, it could be really bad. I think there might be a slow collapse of some sort, and collapse of the petrodollar. The petrodollar has kept the massive debt that allowed people like Ben Shapiro to become multimillionaires based on yakking really fast and not very intelligently. If that's your builders, you can keep them, right? Builders, he calls them, right? Lions. Ben Shapiro. Come and debate me, Ben Shapiro. Your psychology will be collapsed. And you will walk away like a dog with its tail between its legs, looking for somewhere to, what else to do next, right? So, no offense, but I'll give you a civilized debate if you don't talk too fast over me. Yeah, right? No, we're going to have a civilized debate. I'll run rings around you on every topic. He's been wrong about so many things that everybody knows are wrong now. Anyway, what's he got? Predicts Trump and economic growth, but warns of need for consistent right actions, which you wouldn't have a clue about, Ben. Economic growth based on a massive debt. I don't know how much Trump has added. They all add a massive amount to the debt. Trump's added another 5 trillion or something at least. Yeah, growth, economic growth. Okay, right, we could talk about that in more depth some other time. He warns against charlatans, grifters, and conspiracists harming conservatism, right? He has done that his whole professional life. He's a charlatan, a grifter, and has spread conspiracy theories, such as immigration. One of his big things will be immigration, illegal immigration, which is tiny in America. It's minute. It's almost nothing, right? And so compared to the actual rise in population of America, which includes legal immigrants, and the legal immigrants are mostly here to do jobs that others won't, and usually for less money. They're just here, not the legal immigrants, but yeah, a lot of legal immigrants can send money home to their family, and it's a lot of money, and they can do quite well. I mean, I'm a legal immigrant by accident. I won't go into that story. Ask me about it. But basically, I just went to college basically I was going to stay for 6 months because I was interested in this one place. I thought I'll probably go back to Europe next year. So I'll just keep going. I kept going and kept doing other things after that. Long story short, every year for 30 years or more, I was saying, I'll go back to Europe. I'll probably go back to Europe next year, so I'll just do this job in the meantime, that. So I've done more careers than anybody else. I was a professor at college for 15 years, and I was really glad when I finally got out of that. I was always in college, being a professor, different colleges. I said, well, I'll probably go back to Europe next year, but I'll just do this in the meantime. And it was fun. Made more money than most full-time professors, because I was working at 3 different places as an adjunct professor. Some years I made more than most full-time professors. So yeah, it was good. So, but I was always, maybe I'll probably go back to Europe next year. But then around 2020, 2021, I made the decision, I'm not going back to Europe, I'm staying in America, because where we were in Vermont had a very short lockdown, about a month, encouraged to get outside for exercise. People were still skiing. This is March 2020. And then opened up slowly. And other places, states, did similar. And the one good thing Trump did was say it's states' rights. And he was right. He's right about that. It's states' rights in that case and other cases. So most of Europe, apart from Sweden, went absolutely mad, in my opinion. And there's no way I couldn't even go back to Europe now. I'd go back to Europe now for very specific reasons. Maybe back to Scotland, maybe, or Europe. But I'd always have this uncomfortable feeling in the back of my mind that these people went mad and they cannot be thought of as rational, insightful people. Just as most Americans were. Most Americans, especially California, New York, Connecticut near me. All these states went. New York is just across the lake from where I live, New York State, upstate New York. And those places went mad. The state, not the people as much. And they went completely mad, New York City, all that. So I became an American citizen in 2022 because I had a green card for 15, 20 years, whatever it was. So that's my story. And I wasn't a grifter because I was always trying to get back to Europe for other reasons that I prefer Europe in many ways. But I'm glad I'm staying here. Where I live is just fantastic. Short lockdowns, semi-rational people most places, right? Not really, but there's still a lot of craziness. But, they have been correct on the whole. Gaza, in my state especially, mass murder, mass starvation, and causing disease and collapse of Gaza. So at least that's one good thing Vermont has been very good at. Although I wouldn't say Bernie Sanders was any good at any of those things I just mentioned. He's from Vermont. But however, in general, they're right about that topic at least. And that's a big topic. That's a global topic of global importance, is what Israel has done to Gaza. And they will never heal from that. Israel will not heal. So Ben Shapiro's an Israel first guy. What else is he saying? He talks about these duties of American conservatives. Duty 1, always tell the truth clearly. Name radical, e.g., for example, naming radical trans threats. I agree with that. You can't, you're lying if you tell children or adults that they can change into the opposite sex. You can't, they can't, no one can. Teaching people that, professionals saying that of any kind, is a crime because you're lying. It can't be done. I grew up I was an adult in the 1980s, in my 20s. In my 20s, I'm 64 now, and I was in my 20s in the 1980s, late 70s, teenager, and basically, yeah, nobody cared about cross-dressers. In fact, it was trendy. Go look at the groups from around 1980 onwards. They were very, what's that word? Trans-looking. Some of them were trans. But they weren't transgender. They weren't trying to cut their penises off or cut their breasts off to become the opposite sex. Absolute mental illness. And many of those people who are trying to detransition now from having been lied to, I feel very sorry for them. I also feel very sorry for all the people who have been severely damaged or a member of their family has been killed by the big pharma vampire capitalist jabs. So I had my whole YouTube channel cancelled for talking about this kind of thing back in 2022, right? And, the CEO of YouTube has died of cancer in 2024. Cancer which started in 2022. So I pray for her family, but it's a bit ironic. And then YouTube, back then in 2022, I made an appeal and they said, we cannot reinstate your account. You have broken the rules, whatever it was. I've still got that email. And then about 6 months ago, I happened to go into my email and I saw an email from YouTube. Your account has been reinstated. This is like 3 years afterwards, right? and your account has been reinstated because you didn't break any rules. So my account back then was actually rising in viewers, but it had a long way to go, but it was starting to get some traction. They shut it down. And unfortunately, one of those videos was warning about the jabs, right? It was literally called "One Jab, Death from Jab is Murder." That's why they deleted me, so cancelled me. And so that, and then ironically, when everybody was getting the jabs in 2022, the CEO of YouTube 2 years later died of fast-moving cancer that was diagnosed in 2022. I wonder where that came from. Certainly, if it wasn't from those specific jabs, it was probably from too much of that medical intervention. So sorry for her. Not really, but yeah, just it's not really her fault that she was made head of YouTube, CEO, whatever that's called, during the time when the world went completely insane. And there were all sorts of government interventions into YouTube and Twitter and all that to control the narrative. There was Big Pharma coming in secretly with all their bots, all of that. So anyway, let's see, what else has he got? Name radical, okay, naming threats. Okay, Zionism. How's that, Ben? No, debate me, Ben Shapiro, on Zionism. Just debate me. I will run rings around you that you haven't even begun to think of. So moving on, we've got speech from principle, not feelings or friendships. This is so ironic, right? He criticises Candace Owens. She is definitely worthy of massive criticism. She gets some things right. And I've never heard anything that Ben Shapiro's ever got right. But anyway, Candace Owens sometimes does very interesting work. The other aspects of it are mad. And I don't know why she burns her boats like that on stupid stuff like that. She thinks she's speaking from principle. That's why she does that. Right? Not from feelings or friendships. She's lost masses of friends and supporters. So that's what you're asking her to do, and you're criticising her for doing that. What an idiot. So duty number 3. Take responsibility for statements and guests. He criticises Tucker Carlson for bringing different guests on, like Nick Fuentes and all that. So don't talk to people who might have a different opinion from yours. I remember when Piers Morgan brought on Alex Jones, way back in the day when Piers Morgan took over that show, what's it called? What's his name tonight? Larry King Tonight, right? So Piers Morgan took over and he brings on Alex Jones and interviews him because he's controversial. So it was a terrible interview, but anyway. Take responsibility for the guests you bring on. Don't bring on anyone that has a different opinion from you or disagrees with the mainstream. Okay, that means for example, don't bring on someone who points out, such as Sunetra Gupta of Oxford University, world expert in epidemiology and those kind of things, says the lockdowns were too severe, right? So don't bring her on during the lockdowns, right? Criticise her, crush her, cancel her, demonise her, right? That's what he's saying here. Smear her, right? Far more qualified than anyone you had, Ben, on your show when you were promoting lockdowns. I don't know if you promoted lockdowns, but you certainly didn't say much against it. And then promoted the jabs that killed and maimed people, all for a virus with a 99.8% survival rate, mostly the elderly. A virus that, for the elderly, would have had a 95% survival rate, or put it another way, a 97% survival rate per annum. Over 3 years, that's what it was. The elderly, over 70s, right, had a really good survival rate. And you shut down society, jabbed people with jabs for nothing. The jabs didn't work, but you killed people and maimed people for life. So please don't talk about responsibility on his next point is about providing evidence, reject baseless conspiracies. I did reject your baseless conspiracy back then that's saying everybody should get the vaccine again and again and again. You said that. I rejected that because it was baseless. That's what you do, Ben. Right? So provide evidence, reject baseless conspiracies, right? Propose real solutions, avoid fostering despair. Oh yeah, let's just ignore the people starving in Gaza, mass murder. No. That is so much despair. If you look at the videos that are very clearly from there, and the mass destruction, and not being able to see a single video, except for some that were put together 2 years ago, a year ago, trying to show you something great's going on in Gaza, that life's normal, but those were taken somewhere else and produced by the IDF, it looks like, Mossad and all that. But yeah, show me a video, go there. Get someone else to go there, Ben, because you're Jewish, you're probably afraid to go there. You're a multimillionaire, pay other people to go there, right? And so, sorry, I'm still looking at my notes down here, but pay other people to go there, professionals, people are not afraid to take a risk. And take the images, take the videos of the beautiful market town in Gaza, with all the wonderful people selling their wares on the street, shouting out their goods to buy from the market. You know, the students working in the cafes, drinking their lattes. Yeah, show me the videos of the children skipping off to school, happily skipping to school. The jolly fat policeman having a laugh with the lady bringing home the groceries, big bags of groceries. You know, fat policeman, fat woman walking home. And show me those videos in a beautiful setting. Yeah, and don't promote those fake videos. Go there, get someone to go there and show the videos that show how wonderful Gaza is, because all you will ever see right now is mass destruction. So please don't tell us to provide evidence. We have, and you rejected it. And it's not a conspiracy. This will mark on you for life, even more than the mark you got as a baby, the cattle mark of, the mark of the cult, right? Let's see, second last one, number 9 out of 10 points provided by AI about your video that I would not watch. Propose real solutions, avoid fostering despair. Yeah, we went over that, I believe. What other despair? Yeah, he's always gone supporting the super rich while the middle class and the poor are falling. And he's calling them grifters and, what do you call it? People just whining, whatever he called that. Grievances, scavengers. The people who are being pushed down by the super rich, the giant mafia capitalist corporations, right? Giant vampire capitalists, mafia, some of them, especially Big Pharma. These giant corporations subsidized by the massive debt that's going to go on the Zoomers and the millennials to deal with. They can't even pay the interest on that debt, while it was given and subsidizing these massive corporations, vampire capitalist corporations, the super rich getting richer, the middle class collapsing, and you're calling them scavengers. Man, your day needs to come. What else? Calls out Candace Owens, Tucker Carlson, Nick Fuentes, Kelly, Megyn Kelly, Steve Bannon for dishonesty, urges truth-based unity. Right? So they're trying to unify the conservative movement. You've blown it because you all lie. You all lie massively at some point. And he's taken this opportunity where people like the ones he just listed, Candace Owens, Tucker Carlson, there's a fracturing going on that I've predicted for a long time among everybody, not just right-wingers, these major right-wing influencers, these major news corporations, mainstream news, this fracturing that's going on, right? It's what I call a disintegration, and I can go into that in another video if anyone wants to ask me about it. It's quite an interesting theory and can be clearly, as he said, show evidence for it. But there's a fracturing going on amongst these conservatives, including him. So now he's fractured with the people he's criticising, and his group, those people and their followers, are fractured from him massively. The comment sections on any of this will show that on his video of his speech. So Candace Owens, Tucker Carlson, Nick Fuentes, massive influencers, these people. Megyn Kelly, who used to be on Fox News, Steve Bannon, who was the CEO of, or not the CEO, the sort of vice president of Cambridge Analytica when they were telling lies about the EU and promoting those lies throughout the British media with Cambridge Analytica, right? So he was the vice president. Steve Bannon, an American, funded by Americans. Talk about interference in elections. So he's now fractured from them. They're going to fracture a little bit from each other. They might stick together as a sort of a group because they're being ostracized and demonized. So they might decide to stick together, but nobody's going to stick together with people like Ben Shapiro and people like that who are Israel first. So Ben, debate me. I will run rings around you on all these topics: climate change, Gaza, and immigration, all of it, that you are an extremist. So when you call yourselves conservatives, you're talking about extreme conservatism. And I'll run rings around you in a debate. I'd love to do it. I know you won't know me. I'm a nobody, but that's okay. I don't really want to be well known. However, that would be so much fun. I would run rings around this million words a minute speaking guy. Even if I speak slowly, I'll still run rings around him. So even if I speak slowly and pause and stutter a little bit or whatever, just because I'm not used to speaking, I'll still run rings around him. I'll collapse every point he has, and it would be so much fun and also educational for him and a hell of a lot of people. Okay, that's that. Ben Shapiro's speech again. It's going viral today, mostly because people don't like him and don't like his points. So there's a lot more detail I could put into that, but that's the gist of it. Ask me specific questions and I'll make short videos on all this.